Hello YouTube, this is going to be a video on basically WWE and pro wrestling and the low rating they got, or it's going to focus around, it's in reference to the low rating they got last Monday night, and it's going to focus around my ideals of what I would do to help get those ratings up and help turn the company around. And while I'm mainly directing this video towards WWE, I'm talking about WWE. It's also in reference to TNA on some level, because TNA has many of the same problems. So this is my video on that. Basically, what I would do is I would Raw got the lowest rating it's got in, like, what was it, since 1997, and I forget the exact number, but it was the lowest rating since 1997, and that was, so that would be, what would it be, 18 years now, and that was the year they started the Attitude Era. That was the year they really started the Attitude Era, and they made a change. They made a change in their direction, and turned the wrestling, turned everything, the ratings and everything around, eventually defeated WCW. So basically, that was the year they made a change in direction. So what I would do is do the same thing now, and I would restart the Attitude Era. Now, you might not call it the Attitude Era, you might not, at least I wouldn't be like, hey everyone, it's the Attitude Era, but I would restart the fucking Attitude Era, or create a new era and try to go in a new direction, a new sort of golden era for wrestling, and I think that they could do it easily. Now, the first thing I would do, and this is really what sparked this video, my idea to do this video right now, is WWE's is the ideal that WWE at WrestleMania 32 might be doing a fucking match between Team Attitude Era, as they call it, Team PG. Now, what that would consist of is basically all these old wrestlers, some of them 40, 50 fucking years old, wrestling new wrestlers from now, you know. Which, to me, I don't know if it'll be a Survivor Series match or having a separate match, but to me that just seems like a ridiculous and stupid ideal. And that's part of what's wrong with wrestling too, is I think they want to dwell on the past. And they bring up things from 20 years ago and book legends, and they're having people who are 40, 50 years old still wrestle, and they bring people like Lesnar back, you know, and he's main eventing, and it's stupid. They need to focus on now, they need to build up their current product and build it up. And I would take people like Kevin Steen, or they call him Kevin Owens, somebody like Finn Balor, maybe, for example, Dolph Ziggler, and those wrestlers, various wrestlers, and I would build or center the company around them. And I would try to basically do the same thing they did in the early 90s, which eventually led to the Attitude Era, and that is start a new superstar initiative. And I would build the company around them, and in some ways they're starting to do that now. But I would start to phase out people like Cena. I think Cena's been on there long enough. I think Kane and Big Show, who are in their 50s in the main event, phase that out and give that to new stars. And I would bring in new stars, bring in more people from NXT, sign people from other companies. I'd sign people from RH, TNA, various places, Lucha Underground. Someone like Dalton Castle, I would try to sign him if I was working at WWE. I think the Ring of Honor has done a great job with Castle. I think he's an awesome talent, one of the most interesting characters on there. And I would do that kind of thing, and I would just rebuild my roster from the ground up, basically. And furthermore, what I would do, and this is really where this video is getting into, to give you a more direct set of ideals or direct changes I would make in the company in their creative department, is I would, first of all, I would fire the 50 fucking writers they have now, and I would simply bring back Vince Russo. I'd hire him and Paul Heyman to do the writing. I would hire Vince Russo and Paul Heyman to write the script for the TV shows. And if I was, say, Vince McMahon, for example, I'd have them present the script to me, just like he did at Russo in the 90s, and I would be the filter. I'd edit some things, I'd add some things, but for the most part, whatever they wrote, that'd be the script. I would bring the company back to a TV 14 rating. I would either fire Kevin Dunn or I demote him, and I don't know anything about Kevin Dunn, but according to a lot of people, he's a very fascist kind of guy. Like, he likes to undercut other people and try to keep himself on top of everything. Supposedly he had something to do with Jim Ross getting fired, but I don't know any of that. But I wouldn't fire the guy. I would demote him, and I'd bring in preferably Eric Bischoff to do production. Now, that might not be possible because of Eric Bischoff's current work in Hollywood. He's doing something else, and I think probably making a lot more money. So if I can bring him in, and I bring someone else in, possibly a young guy, give him the chance to make money. Yeah, you know, if I liked his production style and he could reproduce the show. Heyman produced ECW on a very low budget. He could perhaps produce it, do a good job producing the show. And I'd probably bring back Jim Ross. He's a commentator. I might even have him, because there you have an older guy, but he can still do his job very well. And he's got a great voice. He's one of the best announcers. And him and King, at least when King was kind of a heel character, was one of the greatest announce teams in history. So I would do that. I'd bring back JR, and I'd probably put him in charge of a lot of the talent recruiting. I know Triple H is in charge of it, and he does a decent job, but I think they could maybe work together perfectly. Maybe someone like Jim Ross could suggest ideals, produce ideals to the show. And I would just change the whole thing. I'd go back to the old intros they had. I would go back to like Thorn in Your Eye. I wouldn't use the exact same intro because, like I said, we need to move on to the future and have the current era. But I do think it should be a rock song, heavy metal type song, and it should be impactful. It should be hard hitting, and it should really explain and incorporate into it everything. It should incorporate into it the spirit of the product and explain what you're watching. And from the first time that you see that intro, you need to understand that's what the show is going to be. So it would be something like Thorn in Your Eye, Across the Nation, Beautiful People, Everybody on the Ground, Bodies, or whatever. And like I said, I'd bring back TV14, I'd bring back some of the Ryan Penny's matches. I do think women's wrestling should be more serious and they should go in a different direction. And I think that they should have more time on TV. I also think they should have more violent matches like the guys do. I mean, if they want more money, more spotlight, then they should probably have to work harder. But I do agree that women's wrestling should be taken more seriously. But before we get to that, I think we should do more sexual things like the Brian Pennies and thongs and shit like they used to do in the Attitude Era. And fuck all this PG political correct shit, because again, you're talking about money. You're making money. You don't want to hurt your ratings. You don't want to do all this shit. What would that hurt? How are you not being hurt now? You've lost ratings. You went up against any football crap or anything, so that's not why people don't watch. People just aren't watching. They're not interested. They're not titillated by your product. They're not interested in it. Simple as that. They don't relate to it. They don't like it. And as a fan, I'm telling you, I don't like it. And they need to change the product. And they need to focus on the future and make serious changes backstage and in a creative capacity. And that's what I would do. P666.